Thank you for joining us for the WHO Radio Wise Guys video bonus for May 7, 2011. I'm Brian Gongol.
I'm Dan Adams.
And we are here to recap all the stories we didn't get a chance to talk about during the WHO Radio Wise Guys this afternoon. Only have an hour on the air, so we try to wrap up things with a little extra stuff after the show. Google has tweaked its search rankings or search algorithms just a wee little bit here over the last couple of days. And a lot of people are upset over this matter because they make money based off of ads that show up on their websites, and they only get people to show up on their websites if they show up well in the search engine rankings. They're mad. They say Google was out to screw them by changing the way that their search rankings were set up, and it booted them down the list a bit. Google says this was an effort to provide better search engine quality. I say it's just one more sign that Google is going to have a very difficult time over the next 10 years.
Well, okay, first of all, I understand why these people are upset because, they build their business based on how high they can get ranked in the Google search engine, okay? And that is all on the algorithm, okay? They know how the algorithm works. They know what they need to do to get ranked as high as they can get. It costs them some money to do that, and they're willing to spend that money, and that's all fine and good. So when Google comes along and changes the parameters or some of the parameters of that algorithm, then yeah, that's going to screw some people over. And what's going to happen now is it's going to take them more time to get their rankings back up there. And I'm sure they're not happy about it. But I maintain that somehow, some way, this is just another way for Google to make more money, to get more money out of these people.
Well, what their argument is, though, is that better results are going to mean more money for them because people will get more of what they're looking for, and they'll stick with Google as their search engine of choice. And I say that's going to be one of their main challenges. That's still their huge source of revenue, is people using Google as a search engine. And I say if they don't act carefully, they're not going to be the search engine of choice in the next decade. They have to work hard to keep that up.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and yeah, they need to keep doing stuff to stay on top. But honestly, there's no challenger. There's no real threat to them anytime soon.
Well, yeah, but you could say that about things, but you probably would have said the same thing about MySpace a few years ago, and then Facebook came out of nowhere and cleaned their clocks. I mean, that's how that thing kind of worked.
Yeah.
I say the very same thing could happen to Google at any time, depending on who's got the best technology, who does the best research, and who comes up with the best formulas for providing what people really want. And honestly, I think if you're building your entire business model off of how you appear on Google and Google alone, that's a really terrible business model to use generally.
A lot of people do it.
I know a lot of people do it.
There's Google AdWords and AdSense and all that stuff. There's a lot of people out there that have built really nice businesses based solely on the Google search engine.
That's true, but see, that's sort of, to me, that's a lot like building an entire radio station off of how you're going to appear on the Arbitron rankings, and if you're doing something exclusively based off of one set of rankings, rather than acknowledging that, hey, if you just have a really great radio station or a really great website, people will find you one way or another. I think that's the way you really ought to go.
Okay.
Just my humble or not so humble opinion on the whole matter.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I rely very heavily upon how people show up on Google search rankings because that's a great portion of my online business. So I do it very heavily, but I figure I'm not going to spend all of my time on search engine optimization. I'm just going to have a good site. And if people find me, they'll find me because it's a good site.
That is definitely a key right there.
Well, that's what Google claims that everybody should be doing anyway. Apple has rejected an immigrant smuggling game, I presume for the iPad and the iPhone. Dan, tell us about it.
Yeah, there's a company that, and I can't even pronounce their name, but they made a game to work on the iPhone and the iPad, and the game is called Smuggle Truck Operation Immigration. And basically, it's a game where you try to drive a truckload full of immigrants through the desert while trying to prevent them from getting thrown out of the vehicle. And Apple has rejected this. Hard to believe that Apple would reject a game like this, but yes, they did. They said that it's just not a very nice game to have.
Well, Apple said it was in bad taste, and it is in bad taste.
It is, but it's funny.
Well, what's interesting is the authors of the game claim that this immigrant smuggling game was actually meant to not to denigrate or to downplay the importance of the problem, but rather to highlight the difficulties involved in the immigration process.
Yes, that's a PR spin trying to get their program back on the for sale on the iPhone and iPad,
Yeah.
and it's too little, too late. It's not going to happen.
I agree, and I really do think it was in bad taste, and I think Apple has every right to reject something like that for being in bad taste. That's perfectly fine for them to do that. They're a privately held company, or not a privately held company, but they're a private company. They can do what they want if they think something is judged to be in poor taste. That's part of keeping up their reputation. So. Fine with me.
Yeah.
Microsoft versus the tablets.
Well, I got a story here about how Microsoft earnings are being overshadowed by the threat of tablet computers. I mean, everybody's going with the tablet computer these days. My wife even finally got an iPad too. Thank God she's off my computer. But you look at total netbook sales, they're down. Laptop sales are starting to slip a little bit as people can figure out more and more things to do with tablet computers. Tablet computers are a lot smaller and lighter and easier to get around with. People just don't need to buy a laptop anymore, and a lot of people aren't even using desktops. My wife doesn't even need to use a desktop computer at home anymore. She can just use her iPad to check her email and do her stuff there. And this is all taking money out of Microsoft's pocket, and they're not happy about it.
Well, it's taking money out of their pockets, not literally, but it's keeping them from selling the operating systems that run most of the laptops.
Well, absolutely.
People buy.
And Microsoft now, their new strategy is to partner with companies like Nokia and other smartphone companies to get their Windows Phone 7 out there more. Again, this is Microsoft being behind the 8 ball, and it's too little too late. Microsoft is once again late to the game, but yet the spin they're putting on everything is that they are the dominant player out there and you should be using their software, and that's just not the case. Apple and Android they've taken that market. They own it. And Microsoft has no place to play anymore. I
think tablets are still overpriced for what they deliver. I think that they still are attractive in a lot of ways, but I think they need to really drop down to the $150, maybe even the $200 price range.
And they very well
they're just almost not a throwaway item, but they're an easy decision for people to make, for people to just pick up and say, hey, I like it or I don't like it, but not have to agonize over, well, this is a $500, $600, $700 decision as it is today.
Yeah, and they very well could someday, but today's not the day. So.
Well, we'll see what happens for Microsoft over the long term. Frankly, if I didn't have this show, I would probably invest in Microsoft, but I don't want to have to sit there and just claim everything that I say every time I'm on the air. So I don't put convenience. I think over the long term.
You should put your money into Apple, Brian. That's what you should do.
Yeah, I wouldn't put my money into them either, no matter what. If you want to talk about a company that is susceptible to the whims of consumers, Apple is more susceptible than Microsoft. Microsoft is more.
They're the company that's driving the whims of consumers.
For now.
Yeah, well, for now, they're making money now.
Yeah, they have no guarantee that's going to last over the next 5 to 10 years.
Anyway, in anything.
10 years from now, I would put more likelihood, I'd put a higher probability of success on Microsoft than I would on Apple. Because Microsoft still has a huge corporate market that Apple doesn't have and will never have.
I predict right now that 10 years from now, Microsoft will be a fraction of the company they are today.
My prediction is Microsoft will be a stronger company 10 years from today than Apple. No question about it.
Okay.
That's why we differ, and that's why we have a show. Moving on here with other stuff to talk about. Online scams have been jumping on the bin Laden bandwagon.
Okay. Here's the thing that you need to know right now. There are no pictures out there of Osama bin Laden dead. There's no video. There's no pictures. There's only 2 different guys that took video and pictures of this, and they both are Navy SEALs, and they're not releasing anything, okay? So if you get an email saying that, click on this link and go see pictures of Osama bin Laden dead, with a hole blown in his head, it's a scam. It could be a virus attached, something like that. Don't click on it. Don't do it.
Right. In fact, there's a very high probability that there is a virus attached to it. That's what they're trying to do.
I've already gotten a half a dozen of these.
Have you really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I've already seen a half a dozen of these. Don't even click on them. Just delete them.
No, every time there's a big news event that sounds like it's something you might want to see, every time Paris Hilton gets out of a chair or out of a car without watching how she, out of her ladylike ways, anything like that, there are going to be people who claim to have videos because they want you to open the files. They're just basically counting on your morbid curiosity, and they're counting on you to open it up. Don't do it. Just,
don't do it.
Pass up the inclination. And it applies not only on email attachments, but also to Facebook postings and messages as well, Twitter, any of the other methods people use to get a hold of you. Finally, to leave on a happy note.
This is a segment I like to call the end of the world as we know it. This is the beginning of the end right here, okay?
I won't qualify it as the end of the world. I will qualify it as really creepy.
This is why. You just have to look at the story and say why.
Internet kissing.
Guys in Japan, okay, engineers in Japan, computer engineers in Japan, have developed machines that can kiss on the internet. And not just kiss, not just a little smooch. We're talking French kissing with tongue, okay? That's the creepy element here. Why do you have to have a computer French kiss anything? Okay, first of all, in Japan, I'm telling you right now, they got bigger things to worry about than computers that can kiss, all right?
Perhaps.
Guys at the Kajimoto Laboratory at the University of Electrocommunications, doesn't that sound like it's made up and from a cartoon movie or something? Anyway, in Tokyo, have announced that it has developed a device that uses a straw-like component to convey tongue motion to a lucky recipient. Are you kidding me? A lucky recipient? What? With the same device on the other end. Why? Why do we need this? We don't need this. This is the end of time. It's the beginning of the end as I see it.
Well, let's not overstate the fact. What they're doing is that this is to me more of a proof of concept that they can get computers to relay things that are non-traditional computer information over the internet. They want to relay things. Do I think that this is a way that two people who are, long-lost, separated lovers can meet up again and kiss over the internet? I think that's not likely to
No,
occur.
that's not why it was developed.
No, this is more of a proof of concept. There are other things that they're trying to prove that they can do that we really probably can't get into on a family video here, but let's just say that over the long term, do not be surprised when internet kissing becomes something quite more than that. And the whole idea behind this is that as people spend more of their time online and more of their time separated from other people, they might be willing to also disassociate other things that might have required physical contact with other people and then get that over the internet as well.
I'm starting to rumor right now that the next iPhone will have a new software called iSmooch, and that's what you'll be able to do with it, is smooch with other iPhones.
Thanks so much for
That's my
sharing
rumor
that.
I'm starting right now. You've heard it here first.
You heard it here first from the WHO Radio Wise Guys. We are on the air 10:40 a.m. at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoons Central Time. 10:40 a.m. on your AM radio dial if you're in the state of Iowa. If you are outside the state of Iowa, you can stream it online at whoradio.com. You can also find our podcasts there as well. Get plenty of information.
And you can listen to us on iHeartRadio if you have an Android phone, or it's on the iPhone also, isn't it?
Android, iPhone, iPad.
Which I did last weekend for a short time while I was in a break at my training I was at, and I listened to you for a few minutes.
Well, wasn't that thoughtful of you? I appreciate that, Dan.
It wasn't exciting.
We had an exciting time. Speaking of exciting, though, I want to congratulate everybody who is at the University of Northern Iowa graduating today. Congratulations to all those folks.
All of our new fellow alumni.
I just realized it's been 10 years since I crossed that stage and got the diploma.
10 years? I'm not going to tell you how long it's been for me.
Let's just say it's been an interesting 10 years, that's for sure, for the world and, for everybody personally. Anyway, that's us. We're the WHO Radio Wise Guys. I'm Brian Gongol.
I'm Dan Adams.
And we're going to see you next week. Join us Saturdays at 1 o'clock Central Time, 10:40 a.m., whoradio.com on News Radio 1040 WHO.